we are back. We are doing a video today that we're calling Feeding the Media Monster, Ignoring Ratings. So I wanted to introduce it just by explaining what the media monster is. So what it means to me is when the media has more influence on children's values and beliefs than their parents and guardians do, or other important people in their life.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, and I would agree with that. And the other thing that I'm going to add to that too is that, the media monster, I think, also will influence adults as well. And so my little plug-in about how the media monster will also affect the stigma that goes along with mental health. But I think that can be a whole nother video. And this might even be a whole series of videos because media really is a big part.
You might see more than one about the media and different. Yeah. I think today we're more focusing on children specifically and how the media monster can impact them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And with that, full disclosure, when we're talking about ratings, so I've seen rated R movies before I was the age of 18. I think
it's actually 17.
Oh, before 17.
Yeah. Me too.
I've seen PG-13 movies before I was the age of 13.
Me too.
I play video games that are rated mature. I'm trying to think if we had, probably some that are now rated mature I did play when I was a teenager and stuff like that. So this is not to say, hey, either this movie or that movie or this video game or that video game or this, or that is good or bad. We're just kind of trying to educate everybody and maybe get people talking about the effects that it has.
Right, and we realize that, we're using media right now to get this message to you. So we understand that media can be a wonderful thing too, and it has many great purposes. So we're not trashing media or any specific media. We're just having an open conversation about it.
Yep, absolutely. And so when we're talking about its effects, one of the things that I want to start off with is talking about how we learn as humans. When we first come into this world, we learn through observation, we learn through trying things out. That's how we learn to communicate, that's how we learn to move. And there's not so there's nothing that happens that flips that switch off of, okay, now that you've reached the age of 5 or 6 or 8, now you're going to stop learning through observation or trying on different things that you're seeing.
Imitating things that you see.
Right, absolutely. That will continue, that's a lifelong thing. So, and kids at a young age aren't able to determine the difference between this thing that I'm seeing on this screen versus this thing that I'm seeing in real life are different. To them, they're exactly the same. So the effects are going to be exactly the same. So if they're seeing some scary stuff or some violent stuff, whether it's in real life or on a screen, it's going to have the same exact effects to them regardless.
Yeah, children have a very hard time differentiating between something that is fantasy and what is reality without somebody else who's older talking with them about it and having that conversation.
Yep, absolutely. So can you think of some examples that maybe you can kind of highlight what we're talking about?
I can. So I work in a school, so I see lots of kids playing every day, interacting with people in their natural habitat at school. And the amount of violent play or violent fantasy conversation, whatever you want to call it, seems to be on the increase. And it's a little different from the whole cops and robbers kind of thing that many of us may have played growing up or we've seen our own children play, but I see kids acting out gunplay, like assault rifles, like doing the movements and making the sound effects as they're shooting their friends. And many times they don't seem to realize that it is violent. They just I'm just playing. If somebody goes up and says, hey, we can't play guns at school, they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm just playing. And for kids it is just play, but it's violent play, and it can be scary for other kids, and it can increase anxiety in those other kids and the kids who are playing. Other examples, kids who have had nightmares from watching The Walking Dead or other sort of scary television shows, things like that. And
that's where I see it most of it, because I obviously don't get to see them on the playground.
Right.
But when kids are coming to see me, I go back to that thing where whether I see it on a screen or I see it in real life, it has the same effects. So if somebody is really connected to somebody, whether that is in real life or there's a character that, wow, I really identify with this character, and scary things happen to that character or hurtful things happen to that character, the effects are going to be exactly the same. So they are going to have nightmares about it.
Or anxiety.
Absolutely.
Fear.
Yeah, all of those things, and they're going to. They may not. I'm going to say going to. They may.
Right.
I don't want to be definitive about it, but they may think that those things that they're witnessing are going to happen to them or their loved ones.
Right.
Because at that age, early age, their imaginations are very, very strong and are honed wonderfully well. They use it on a daily basis. And so it's a wonderful thing. And at the same time, they can't always control in which direction it goes. If it goes in the, hey, it's going to be a joyous, wonderful experience, or am I going to create a scenario or something that is very scary and very real? And that happens a lot with the younger kiddos.
Yeah. I want to bring up one more example because it is current events. In Wisconsin, there was two 12-year-old girls who attempted to stab another 12-year-old friend to death because they were following this urban legend called Slender Man, and they truly believed that by doing this act of violence, Slender Man would reveal himself to them, and luckily, that little girl who was stabbed, she did survive, but that story could have ended very differently. And I mean, the lives in that community are forever changed because these girls just truly believed that this was real, and I guess they needed some conversation about it.
Absolutely.
To differentiate that it was an urban legend, and
Right.
it's not a true story.
Absolutely. And so that, I think, is a good segue into some tips. What can you do to help the people in your life that may be affected by this? So what's one tip for that?
One tip that I say to parents and guardians a lot is to set limits and not be afraid to say no. If there's a certain movie, television show, video game that your child's interested in, it's okay to say no, or say that it's not appropriate. And to stick with that, even if they get upset or they say, oh, but my friends get to do it, my friends get to play it. That's a great time to have a conversation about different family values.
Absolutely. And in addition to the family values, that's a great time where they can practice their self-soothing skills.
Right.
And we can do a whole nother video on that.
We will do a whole other video on that.
Nice. So another tip is to talk with your child, talk with the person in your life that's affected by this. And it can be before they might be witnessing something, whether that is a TV show or whether that's something online or a movie, and after. You can do it on both ends, and help see what comes up. Encourage that conversation, because that can only help, especially if they do have these fears. Now they know, hey, I can have this conversation with this person in my life about I got this fear because I've witnessed this thing.
Yeah, and to go along with the communication, co-viewing media with your children if it's appropriate. So sitting down and watching that children's movie with them, or television show, or if it is a game that you're allowing them to play, and you can have those conversations about, what do you think about what you're seeing? Do you think it's real or not? And you can encourage them to begin to think critically about what they're seeing and hearing, and those skills will continue with them as they get older, when you won't always be there with them.
Absolutely, yeah. And another tip is be mindful of the ratings of the media that you're exposed to, that your child is watching, because those ratings are there for a reason. Because the things that are in that media are developmentally appropriate. So there's my clinical jargon that goes out. So basically, there are issues and things that are brought up in that media that people 13 and older have developed to a point where they can process that. People 13 and younger might not have developed these skills to be able to process and be able to understand that, hey, this isn't going to happen to me, or I'm still going to be safe even though I watch this, or hey, this might not be how I should be interacting with others.
So the ratings do exist for a reason, and we're going to put some links below the video so you can check out more information about about it, and how to help protect your child and all that kind of stuff. And you know your child the best, So, you know, think about what might be appropriate for them or not.
Yep.
And I think the last tip is just that if you have entertainment that you as an adult like to enjoy,
Yep.
you don't have to stop enjoying that.
No.
But figure out a way to do it separately from your child so they're not exposed to things that probably they shouldn't be exposed to.
Right, absolutely, and that includes earshot.
Yeah.
In my world, I see lots of things where kids will hear something and they will create something that as adults we know is impossible, but they'll create something that is very real to them, just based off of something they've heard. So just be mindful of that. So any other things that you want to leave folks with?
Just keep the conversation going with your children. Not all media is bad. Use your best judgment. Don't be afraid to say no.
Excellent. Yeah, great. So, as always, this may not fit in your life, or this may not apply to you, but if it does,
Work what works for you.
and leave the rest.